Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I wanted to come in and talk to you guys about something that I just saw and just found out. Will Smith apparently has been banned from the Oscars for a decade. The Academy just made their announcement, and they pretty much said that Will can't come in the building. He's not allowed to be a part of the Oscars for at least 10 years. Now, this is really interesting. Obviously, a lot of you guys know where this comes from. This comes from the slap, that crazy slap where he decided that he wanted to run up on the stage and take Chris Rock out because Chris Rock made a joke about his wife's hair. And the truth is that it wasn't it wasn't a bad joke. It really wasn't. It was, like Chris said, it was a GI Jane joke, dude. And most people really wouldn't even get the joke because GI Jane is an old movie. It's from 25 years ago. The idea that Will freaked out over that, I don't care what you say. I'm not saying that Chris didn't deserve to get slapped. Maybe he did something to deserve it, but it's not making sense to me. So, hey, sweet great mama. Hey, Gail, how are you? Give me a yes or no if you heard about Will Smith's ban. Give me a yes or no. Now, Habiba makes an interesting point. He says, but pedophiles and murderers can rock. Roman Polanski, Woody Allen, Alec Baldwin. Well, Alec Baldwin's not a murderer. He was on a movie set and accidentally shot somebody. But Roman Polanski, I think, is banned. In fact, actually, what's interesting is that a ban from the Oscars or being kicked out of the Academy, the only actors who've been or actresses who've been kicked out of the Academy were Roman Polanski, Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein. So Will, when he resigned from the Academy, that was actually to save him from being part of a notorious group of people. And so, anyway, I'll be curious. Give me a yes or no. Do you think that Jada is part of the problem? I mean, do you think? I think what's interesting about this, my wife and I did a podcast the other day. You know my wife, Dr. Alicia. She's a couples therapist, and we did a podcast episode the other day on our show. It's called Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia. And one of the things that we sort of dove into was this video. Did you guys see that video where Will and Jada are talking, and Will clearly doesn't want to be filmed, and Jada appears to clearly be using Will to get attention for her show, The Red Table Talk? Did anybody see that? I don't know if you saw that or not, but it really it didn't look good. It wasn't a good look. It was a bad moment for the Smith family. I think that it was one of those times where I watched what some of the brothers were saying. Some of the brothers are like, "This is why she's toxic. This is why she's garbage, and this is why she doesn't love him. She really wants Tupac." I think you're going too far when you say all that because you don't know. You don't know what's going on in their marriage. You don't know what's going on in their hearts and in their mind and what they really want. The internet's always going to speculate, but I can say that what was clear was that Jada was doing something Will wasn't comfortable with. She was violating him. She was violating him. And whether or not there was a reason she was violating him or whatever, there is no reason to violate another person. That you can't excuse that. Like, so if a man violates a woman, which you know what I mean, you can violate a woman in a lot of different ways. If a man violates a woman emotionally, physically, or otherwise, there is no excuse. The man can't say, "Well, she was mean to me," or "Yeah, she hurt my feelings," or da, da, da. No, no, you can't violate another person. You're not supposed to. A man cannot violate a woman without being demonized on the spot. So I think that when you look at that video in a vacuum, and again, we did a whole podcast about it. If you go to BoyceAndAliciaTV.com, you can actually watch it if you want to. Um, it's one of those things where it really just made Jada look like a bad spouse. It just really, in my view, kind of made Jada look like a little bit of a clout chaser. It made her look like she was, kind of using Will to get attention to her show, The Red Table Talk. And there's the URL, BoyceAndAliciaTV.com. Um, that's where you can watch it if you want to. And I can just tell you, it's like it's one of these things where there's a lot happening here. There's a lot happening. I mean, so Will's being banned from the Oscars. To me, that's the surface. That's what the public knows. That's what you see. There are deeper levels to this, right? So the different levels might go. You can go down the pathway of Chris Rock. What's the history there? Um, You could talk about protecting Black women. What does it mean to protect a Black woman? Does it mean slapping everybody who says something disrespectful about your wife? I'm going to go ahead and step out and say that's a no, because if you show other men, especially lesser men, that they can trigger you and get you to put yourself in jail because they said something about your wife, just because they opened their mouth, then guess what? Everybody's going to test you. Everybody's going to test you. So you go out here, you say, test my gangster. Anybody who say one word about my wife, they're going to get slapped. Well, any man who's trying to, trying to become a big shot, any man who's trying to get noticed, any man who's trying to get attention is going to say something about your wife because they know that that's your weak spot. That's your trigger. That's your thing that's going to elevate them. Right. So ultimately, I'm not a fan of Will feeling like he had to slap Chris. I just didn't get that. I'm not saying Chris didn't need to get slapped. Maybe the jokes are distasteful. Maybe he said some things that made them mad. Maybe things are happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. But I just don't understand this move. It just wasn't consistent with the history of Will Smith being this strategic and intelligent guy who's built one of the greatest brands on the entire freaking planet. His wife, I don't like the red table talk. I don't, and I was invited on the red table talk. Well, kind of, sort of. They were gonna bring me in. They did the pre-interview, and I'd had dental surgery, so when I was talking to the producer, my words were not coming out right. So they picked somebody else, which they probably should have. But I don't like the red table talk because I feel like it's like it takes the premium mystique of the Smith family brand, and it reduces it like a notch. It takes it down to just this internet show where the wife is pulling any embarrassing fact about her family out of her ass and using it to get attention. And I just feel like that's just weird to me. It's not very regal. It's not something um that royal families do. When you're really royal, you might, and you'll engage the public, but you don't tell everybody all your business. And I think that, and the way this is really an economic conversation, this isn't just a gossipy thing. This is really a template, kind of a blueprint. The Black family is something that is sacred, something that is, um, worthy of fighting for. It's the kind of thing that we should be proud of when we see solid families established. And I think for a long time, people saw the Smith family as a blueprint. Like, look, this is how you do it. You get together, you stay together, you raise kids, you find success, you partner with each other. The husband supports the wife supports the husband. Everybody's winning. Like, I think a lot of people looked at it that way, but now it's kind of sad because it's become like a Jerry Springer thing. It's become kind of messy. And somebody says, "Boy, she will not be invited to the Red Table Talk." No, I will not. I will not be invited back, nor would I ever want to be. I don't know what I would even do. I'm not gonna get on. I'm not gonna get on the show and start telling you all the deepest, darkest secrets that might embarrass my family. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that every family doesn't have its issues. We know this, but I think that there was a point where people got sick of Jada being so open about things that were uncomfortable for people, like sleeping with your child's best friend or whatever that little boy August Alsina was. I mean, August Alsina was born in 1999. I think Jada and Will weren't they married by that time or something? It wasn't Jada was already a full grown woman in 1999. She was probably 20, maybe 26 years old or something like that. This guy, so maybe that's not the topic to bring onto the show, right? Maybe that's the thing you handle behind closed doors, and then when you go to the public, you show up as a united front. Um, so if our family ever had an issue like that, my wife and I, we go public, we'll talk to the public, we do it all the time. But just know that when we're having real serious issues that threaten the existence of our relationship, we're not gonna work that shit out in front of y'all. we, we're not gonna be out here like, hey y'all, let me tell you what trifling shit my spouse just did. That's just not, no. We gonna show up like after we've worked it out, after we figured out, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Here's how it's gonna go down. Okay, here's how we can help people, right? And I think that it's important to acknowledge that without us getting into this idea of building a fantasy, though. I think that what I like about honesty in the way the Red Table Talk lays out is that it reminds you that relationships are hard, that you got to fight for it. You know, you got to really want it. You got to really want to be married to somebody, even if you don't feel like being married. Like, even if you're married and you're like, damn, anybody in here who's married, is anybody here married, or am I the only one? How many of y'all are married? Give me a yes or no if you're married. If you're married, and this is for the people who are not married, I want y'all to just kind of school them a little bit. These are your professors. Your professors in the community when it comes to family are the people who are actually doing it. It's not the Kevin Samuels types who are single and all that. They could teach you how to go get some ass. They could teach you how to have a boyfriend or have a girlfriend. They could teach you how to go get a hookup or how to get on a social media app and swipe left and swipe right. They could teach you all of that. But in terms of learning how to stay married to somebody like Simone Booten, who's been married 14 years. Shout out to Simone. That is a battle, man. That's a battle. And in order to fight a war and to win the war, you gotta want to win the war. You gotta value the prize at the end of the tunnel. Because being married, I would argue, is it's a lot like running a marathon. You know, my wife convinced me to run my first marathon, and I swear to God, it was absolutely, like, a big chunk of it was fucking horrible. It was not fun. I would hit like mile 14 and I was like, my God, I've run 14 miles and I still have 12 miles to go. I got to do this over again. This is unbelievable. But why did I keep going? What made me keep going despite the fact that my legs were hurting? Everything was sore. I literally, like, wanted to just stop every single stride. I just wanted to stop running. What kept me running in that marathon? Well, it was the pride I had when I crossed that damn finish line. It's the pride I had in knowing that only 1% of the population can run a marathon. It was the pride I had in knowing that I had won the battle against weight gain. I'd won the battle against my high blood pressure. I'd won the battle against not believing that I can't do anything in this world. I was not the same man after I finished that marathon that I was when I started it. And that's what I owe to my wife. But the weird thing about it is that people don't understand that you can't have the prize without the pain sometimes. You can't have the win without some discomfort. And where I congratulate the Smith family is that they've had a lot of discomfort. They endured all that, and they can say that they've accomplished something that most people have not. Right? Their children are better off because their parents stayed together as opposed to getting a divorce. Whether you know it or not, divorce is harmful to your children. Your children will need therapy after watching mommy and daddy just break up or after seeing y'all fight for 2 years. I'm not dogging you if that's your story. I'm just saying that that's just what it is. But at the same time, I think that where I would have to disagree with the Smith family and their approach to things is that I don't really know if the whole world needs to sort of watch you go through all the ugly, nasty crap you got to go through to stay married. I just really don't know if the world understands it. I think that a lot of young people will see that and they'll say, "Oh God, why would I ever get married? Why would I ever get married?" The men are like, "Oh man, I don't want to end up like Will. She done cut Will's balls off, man. She done turned him into a punk, into a simp." And first of all, and let me just address that too. Like, calling Will Smith a simp is kind of hilarious. When you call him a simp, you're really calling yourself a simp, because at the end of the day, most of the people that call Will Smith some emasculated wimpy simp haven't accomplished literally 2% of what this man's accomplished in his life. Sure, he might be deeply in love with this woman. Sure, he might have made some mistakes in his life. Sure, he might have some embarrassing moments that none of us would want to go through. But this man has made $1 billion in his life. Have you made $1 billion? This man can go anywhere on the entire planet and be recognized instantly. This man is one of the most respected, celebrated human beings on the planet. This man is one of the most powerful businessmen on earth. This man was at the front seat of the Oscars where he even had the ability to walk up without getting stopped by security and slap the shit out of the host and still gonna be okay. He's still gonna make his next billion. Just make no mistake about it. Will Smith will still make his next $1 billion. Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear what I'm saying? So before you say, "Oh, he's just a punk," or I would never want to be like that. That man, he just weak. He just a wimp. Whatever. Just understand that, yeah, he might shed a tear, but Will Smith is also a guy who knows how to kick some ass. Now is the marriage as perfect as he wants it to be? It doesn't seem like it is. But a lot of y'all have bad relationships. A lot of y'all have had ups and downs. A lot of y'all guys claiming to be the tough guy. The reason you claim to be the tough guy is because you've dealt with women that made you cry and you couldn't bounce back. some girl broke your heart when you were 23 years old, and you said that in order to protect my heart, I'm never gonna fall in love, so I'm gonna call every woman a hoe until I grow old and I'm the old man, the old folks home that nobody's visiting because I never invested in any kind of relationship with any human being in my entire life. So just understand that balance is critical. Guys who are just taking one side on this, and either the hyper masculine side of saying, "Yeah, he should have slapped him. You disrespect a woman. You need to slap somebody." That's not balanced. That's not balanced. You need discernment. The crazy guys never make it. Tupac was crazy. Tupac was the guy who would get up and go slap somebody for disrespecting his woman. Well, Tupac is in a goddamn grave. Tupac was not like there were balanced guys and imbalanced guys during the 90s. You had the Tupacs and the Easy E's and the Suge Knights who always got gangster with it, always took it to the limit, always went as far as they needed to go. And then you had balanced guys, more strategic guys. Those are the guys who survived. You had the Dr. Dre's, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg. That's why these guys are worth hundreds of millions of dollars today, and they get to see their grandkids live. But you had Pac. Everybody talking about Pac. Everybody want to be Pac. Well, I mean, do you really want to be Pac? Because Pac's dead. I mean, is that what you like? That's really your objective? Pac went to prison right before he died, and he died at 25 before his life hadn't really even begun. He was 25. So I would just say, when we make these comparisons, I think that the internet kind of feeds people's weird little fantasies. It kind of allows us to make things black and white, and I don't see this as being black and white. When I look at what's going on with Will, first off, I'm really curious. I look forward to watching whatever movie they make about this whole incident because I'm going to be willing to bet you that there is a whole story behind all of this. That there's a whole story behind the build up to this moment. There's a whole story behind this relationship. There's a whole story behind why Will was crying on that stage. There's a whole story behind what happened and what's going on right now, what the big wigs are talking about. Also, I was curious about Will Packer. And Will Packer, I wondered if Will Packer was taking the fall for Will Smith because when they asked the Oscars, they said, "Why didn't you remove him? If he committed assault, he shouldn't have been in the building. Why didn't you remove him?" And so the Academy came back and said, "Yeah, it was our mistake." And then Will Packer, who produced the Oscars, who's a black man, by the way, he came out and said, "No, no, 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 no. We didn't want Will removed because we didn't want to make it worse." And we talked to Chris Rock, and one of his people said that they didn't want Will removed because they didn't want to make a bad situation worse. And here's the problem, though. Chris Rock's people have not confirmed any of that. Chris Rock's people said, "Look, nobody talked to us." From what I've read, they said nobody asked us if we wanted this guy out of the building or not. So it sounds to me like a lot of people are trying to cover for Will. Also, in situations like this where you have multimillionaires slapping each other, you have legal liabilities that can come into play. You have advertisers who are probably pissed off. You have the FCC, which is probably filing some kind of paperwork or whatever, or some penalty for all the profanity that occurred on live TV. So you have a lot of complications that are happening right now behind the scenes that I think are really interesting from a business standpoint. So I'll tell you this: whether the 10-year ban is the right ban or not, I don't know. I don't care about that. I've told you, I think the Oscars and all these made up awards created by white people to control black people, they're stupid anyway. Black people, you can have your own award show. At the All Black National Convention, we have an award show, and we gave awards to the black people that we admire, the people like Rizza Islam and Vicky Dillard and Dr. Claude Anderson. So black people, we can create an award show. We've done this every year. We have our convention. By the way, you can go to boycewatkins.com if you'd like to go to the next one, and we get our people together and we give awards to the black people that we admire. We don't look for the Oscars or the Grammys or whatever thing white people created to validate us. We believe black people can validate ourselves. And I believe that what you really saw with Will Smith with this whole incident, what I'm really guessing is that with Will Smith, what I saw coming out of him on that day was I saw King Richard coming out of him. I saw King Richard coming out of him. If you know anything about the life of Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena, you know that he's a black man who also is vilified by white people. Just like Tiger Woods' daddy, just like Joe Jackson, just like pretty much any black man who's ever charged forward and busted through white supremacy to accomplish something extraordinary with his children. These guys get vilified. So Will Smith, in my view, I would be willing to bet you that because Richard Williams is such an uncompromising personality and such a dominant force in every space he goes into, I'd be willing to bet you that Will Smith was affected by what he learned from Richard Williams. I believe that he saw King Richard and said, okay, that's what a king is. That's what a black man looks like. That's what black power really is. That's what black masculinity looks like. It's unapologetic. It's strong, it's firm, it's clear, it's a protector, it's a provider, it's all these things, right? So I think Will Smith, in my view, assuming that he thought through the craziness of what he did that night, I think that this was like his emancipation moment. I almost feel like this was his moment where he said, I've made enough money. I'm gonna keep making money. I don't need you in order to make money. I don't need your validation. And you kicking me out of this is absolutely going to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And I believe Will Smith is smart enough to reinvent himself in a way where this actually works. I think he probably got tired of always being big, goofy Will from the Fresh Prince. And now he's becoming the Fresh King. He ain't the Fresh Prince no more. He's the Fresh King. So to some extent, again, while if Will was my friend, I would probably have advised him like, I don't really think you have to go slap Chris Rock at the Oscars. Not on your biggest night. I mean, you've spent 30 years trying to become Best Actor. Now you got it. Let's slap him next year, maybe. Let's slap him backstage. Let's slap him with a lawsuit. Let's slap him. Let's go do something else. I don't think that doing that thing in that moment was the most strategic move, but overall, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining at all. I was actually, a part of me was actually proud of Chris and Will to some extent. I was proud of Will for just being him, for choosing who the man he wanted to be and being that man. I think that's honorable to a point. Again, the slap's not smart. You're setting a bad example for young black men. Too many black men have gone down from violence. I don't believe that the response to words is physical violence, because too many guys I know have gotten killed or ended up in prison because somebody, stepped on their foot at the club, somebody said something about their woman or whatever. I'm not a fan of that. So that part I don't agree with. But to the extent that it's his decision, it's his life, I respect anybody who lives their truth. Will Smith's truth was, I need to go slap the shit out of this guy right now, and I'm not gonna wait. And he had the power to do that. So to some extent, I honor that. I say, hey, be you. That's great. And then I also honor Chris Rock, because Chris Rock, whether you think he was a punk or not, because maybe he should have tackled Will, he should have slapped him back, they should have just been two 50 something year old black men. Now, mind you, they're almost 60. Chris Rock will be 60 years old in 3 years. And I'm hoping black people will consider just how ridiculous of an image that is for us in front of the world, to have two of our most respected leaders in the black community, not leaders, scratch that, entertainers, our most respected public figures in the black community up there scrapping like 12-year-olds, and they're both in their 50s. I think that's embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's quite immature. But with Chris Rock, I will say I respect and honor the fact that this man showed composure in that situation. He could have not just physically retaliated against Will, but I believe he could have roasted him. He could have made another joke. I would have been, you know what? I ain't gonna lie. I probably, you know what I probably would have done? I wouldn't have slapped him back. What I would have done is I would have made another joke about his wife, just to make the point that you're not gonna stop me from making the joke about your wife. Like, if I'm hosting the Oscars, I'm the boss right now. I'm not gonna let you kill my freedom of speech. I'm standing up for all comedians in their right to make a joke about whatever they want and not have to get beat up because they made a damn joke. I would have made a joke, right? Chris didn't. Chris actually shut it down and said, okay, which I think killed some of his magic. Chris took a big hit in that moment because he looked a little bit awkward. So I commend Chris. I commend the fact that he didn't press charges. I commend the fact that he didn't file a lawsuit. I commend all of that, right? So I think that Chris, to me, in that moment, was probably more of an example of a solid man than Will Smith was, because I don't think you need to have a community where everybody feels like they have the right to slap somebody just because somebody says something you did not like. I get it. I know we're too harsh on black women. I get it. Chris Rock, he did that movie Black Natural. Was it a Good Hair? Where it almost, my wife said it felt like he was disrespecting black women the entire time. I get it that Chris Rock, to some extent, can be considered or be attacked for being kind of an apologist for white supremacy. I get it. He made that joke at the Oscars in 2016 or whatever. I get all of that. So if he makes a joke, you make a bigger joke. If he says something you don't like, you say something else. But slapping somebody at the Oscars, I don't think you understand what kind of precedent that's setting in a world where we're trying to get black men to not physically attack each other when we feel disrespected. Again, this leads to death. This leads to prison. This is what you would call escalation. Escalation is where you say some words, I slap you. I slap you, you punch me. You punch me, I pull out a knife. I pull out a knife, you pull out a gun. Next thing you know, one black man's dead, another black man's in the morgue. Y'all have probably seen this play out in your own life. So I give Chris props for this. So that's pretty much what I'm seeing in all this. I don't know if Will cares about being banned from the Academy for 10 years. If I was him, I wouldn't give a damn. But then again, you're talking to a guy who will never be invited to the Oscars ever, and nor have I ever checked my mailbox for an invitation to the Oscars. I give zero shits about any of these stupid award shows. I read a whole book called "How the Jews Invented Hollywood." It's called "The Empire of Their Own." And it's a great book. It really speaks to the ingenuity of the Jewish community and how they developed Hollywood in the way that they did. I think it's worth reading if you want to understand empire building. I commend it. I respect it. I think it's amazing. But one of the downsides of Hollywood is they use their wealth and they use their power to control black people and get us run around like super slaves, little brainwashed little porch monkeys to some extent, like just kind of doing whatever people tell us to do. And we end up looking embarrassed. We end up being ridiculous and doing any ridiculous thing that they tell us to do in order for us to fit in. And I think that we're better than that. I don't think that we deserve that. I think that when you have kings and queens and billionaires and millionaires and all these powerful people in Hollywood, all these black folks in Hollywood, they got all this power, all this swag, all this capability, all this intelligence. Why don't you have your own award show by now? Why don't you have your own everything by now? It should be all black everything. So I think Will Smith is making a transition. I believe that when Will reemerges, he's going to emerge stronger than ever. But his demographic is going to shift. He's not going to get love from from certain people anymore, but he's still going to be loved by the world. And also I would be very surprised if by all the time all this is said and done that he wasn't still super rich. This man will always be richer than 99.9% of us. And I think he's accomplished, and he doesn't have anything to be ashamed of at this point. So anyway, guys, that's my 2 cents on the issue. I hope you guys have a great day. And just a reminder, the All Black National Convention is in October 28th through October 30th. It is in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is awesome. It is a lot of fun, and that is our thing. That's what we do when we get together and we want to build for our people. So the passes are on sale. The early bird special ends tonight at midnight. So if you'd like to go check it out, you can go to boycewatkins.com and you can get your passes. Bring your whole family. I look forward to seeing you there. Also, if you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up on the way out. I love you. I'll see you soon. Take care now. Peace.